Hi, my name's Robert. I come to you as an automobile enthusiast that have maintained, serviced, and repaired my own vehicles in excess of 30 years. I've had a car that lasts over 400,000 miles. The current car that I'm driving has over 220,000 miles on it. It's a 95 model. So I hope you can benefit from the information I share. Thanks for tuning in. I'm about to do the timing belt job on the 1999 Honda Odyssey. This job was initiated because the van had a massive oil leak and I thought I was going to have to remove the oil pan. So you may hear references to oil parts. Just ignore those. I do believe that you will have to replace the water pump and the tensioner and the idler every time you do this timing belt. So just plan for replacing those two rollers and the tensioner and the water pump each time you do this job. Okay, before you get started with this timing belt job, the very first thing you want to do is come down here and look behind your motor and past your timing belt cover and see what kind of tensioner you have on there. That's the hydraulic tensioner that goes and puts pressure on the tensioner roller, and the kit we ordered came with the wrong tensioner, and that cost us a few days in getting that part because we didn't want to pay $200 for it at the dealer. We wanted to get it for $45 from online. So before you order your parts, make sure you know which tensioner you have on. And here's a comparison of the two tensioners. This is the tensioner we had on. This is the tensioner that came in the parts kit for the 99 Odyssey. This is the wrong one, so we had to go back and order this one. So if the kit you're looking at has this one, you may want to go ahead and order your parts individually. And talking about this tensioner, you cannot do this job without a new tensioner. Main reason because the thing that compresses the tensioner and holds it compressed when you install it is a bracket, and you likely are not going to have that bracket. So you need to order a new hydraulic tensioner. This one was probably on the car just one round, and when I pull the seal back, I could see that it's losing hydraulic oil, which is not good for these tensioners. It's amazing that it didn't let the belt jump timing. So order a new tensioner, and I'm going to show you the bracket that goes on it. These are the tools I use to do the timing belt on the Honda Odyssey. I got the 4-foot by 1-inch cheater bar. I got my long 1/2-inch breaker bar. You're going to need a new tensioner to do this job for sure. You're not going to be able to reuse the old tensioner. That's the bracket that came off of it. You're probably not going to have that to hold it in place if you do compress it. I got a 14mm box end wrench to take the tensioner loose on the serpentine belt. Then I got the annotations for bolts that I wanted to do that, mainly for the wheel bolts. I got this special crank pulley holder that I got from Napa. The part number is 3970. For most Hondas and Acuras, it's a 1/2-inch. I got a magnet to catch things that drop and lose. I got my whiteout to mark my timing marks. And everything else is pretty much just standard sockets, 1/4-inch, 3/8 inch, and 1/2-inch drive sockets. The sockets were 10mm, 12mm, 14mm, and the crank bolt was a 19mm. So if you got any questions, go ahead and post it. And I had an oil filter housing leaking, so I changed it as well. Now that I have the van off the ramps, I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the battery and start taking things loose up top, like take this cover off, take some parts off before I jack the car up and put it on jack stands. Okay, to get this little cover off the front, you do a 1/2 turn on these two little screws with a flat tip screwdriver. Then use that flat tip screwdriver and pry under that little push pin, and then this cover here comes off of the motor. Now you can see your coil packs and your front timing belt cover. Okay, I'm about to jack the car up and get under it, take the wheel off and stuff, so I'm going to set the parking brake. Then I'm going to find something to set behind the rear wheels so that the car doesn't roll back in case the parking brake lets go. Okay, I got the jack set, jacked it up a little bit, broke the lug nuts loose, Went on ahead and jacked it up the rest of the way, pulled the wheel off. Now I'm going to pull this skirt loose so I can have access to the crank that's behind that right there, and pull a couple look like push pin type fasteners, pull those loose. And when you're under here, you can also inspect the suspension for torn or loose bushings. Got a sway bar end link boot there torn. That one's torn there too. You see the control arm boot torn. So this thing has got some worn suspension parts, but the CV axles look like they're still in decent shape. So you can wiggle those around, see if they need to be replaced, and go from there. But let me go ahead and pull this splash panels off so I can have access to the back of that crank bolt and break that loose. Okay, to get this splash panel loose, I had to take these two pins loose. I took one loose here, I took one loose down here, then I took one loose up here, and the panel falls down. That should be good enough to get this crank bolt. As you can see, I went on ahead and put a jack stand under the car, lowered the car on it. I had to jack it up almost all the way. I leave the jack under there just for added security, and I'll probably put one on the other side to give me more space to get under the van to get the oil pan off. So next thing I'm going to do is pull that crank bolt. I got this special tool from Napa to get the crank bolt off. That's the part number there. It looks like 3970 if I could be still far enough, but it pulls those crank bolts. Here's the tool here. I'm going to set it in place. It holds this special crank bolt. As you can see, it's got a bolt in the middle, then it's got that outer sleeve that's like the holder. So you fit that in there, and I usually put a 1/2 inch drive on this, and then I put a extension on the crank bolt and draw it out with the jack stand supporting it. So I'll set that up, and then I'll pop this crank bolt loose. I went on ahead and took the splash panel off. You got 2-3 clips on one side, 2 clips on the other side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clips across the front, and it tucks from under the radiator assembly. And get that out of the way because it's just going to be in the way when you're trying to do other things. Okay, I've seen somebody rig up a crank bolt removal with some long extensions going into the crank bolt and a jack stand supporting one of the extensions and then putting the breaker bar on it. I'm here to tell you that that doesn't work well and it's very dangerous. So don't use that as a means of breaking the crank bolt loose. All of this extension stuff absorbs your energy and your force, so that'll only cause you problems. I tried it. I broke 3 or 4 extensions, so you don't want to waste your time doing that. Okay, these are the tools I'm about to use to break the crank bolt loose. I got a long breaker bar. I got a 4-foot, 1-inch pipe, and then I have a 19mm socket. Let me go ahead and put that in place and show you how I broke it loose. Okay, I got the special Honda crank holder there, 1/2 inch breaker bar on it, and I got that breaker bar laying over the axle and tie rod to keep that steady. Then I fit the socket on there, and I slid the 4-foot breaker bar all the way on it. Then I took this splash panel and put it over top of that. Let me do that real quick. Okay, I got the splash panel over top of it. Now the breaker bar comes out and hits the ground here. Now I'm going to walk this breaker bar to the front of the van, and it'll be dragging on the ground all the way over. Once I get it in front of the van, I use my legs and I grab it and I lift up on it, and it breaks that loose, and then I'll have to reposition that thing to do it again. Okay, and the reason you got to do that is you got to get all of your leverage on here. I've talked to guys and seen guys on TV put extensions on their ratchet, and then they put a jack stand out here and rest the extension on that. When you try to do that, and I have tried even on this one, you end up breaking your extensions because your force is not on the bolt. Your force is losing its torque in these extensions. I had extensions twisting and actually broke 3 different extensions trying it that way. So don't do it that way. And then once it's broke loose, you could use these extensions to twist it on and off. But these things are so tight, when you break them loose, you'll have to break them loose with the walk-in method. Okay, now I'm 100% sure that my crank nut is loose. Next thing I'm going to do is take this power steering pump belt off. I might take the pump totally out of the way. There's a deep socket, 12 millimeter there. There's a 12 millimeter there. Then there's a 12 millimeter down low. You got to get at all 3 of those to get this belt loose and possibly get this out of the way. The bottom bolt is kind of awkward, so I used a 1/4 inch drive with a 1/4 inch to 3/8 adapter on it. Then I put this ratchet on that to get to that lower bolt. Other than that, I couldn't get to it. Next thing you have to do is pull the oil dipstick tube. There's a 10 millimeter bolt tucked right above that serpentine belt tensioner. So you go ahead and pull that to get the oil dipstick out of the way. Then you can get that lower timing belt cover off. Okay, before you take the motor mount loose, you'll need to support the engine under the oil pan. So I just use a 2x8 or a 2x6. Doesn't have to be this long, but this one spans under the transmission as well. And I put a scissor jack under it. I raise the scissor jack till it makes contact, firm contact. Then I turn it 1 more revolution. Just maybe lift the motor up about a 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch, and then you can take the motor mount loose up top. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to drain the coolant out of the radiator. Take the radiator cap loose, inspect it, make sure it's got that tip on it, and take that loose. Then if you look down the radiator, probably can't see it from here, but there's a petcock on it that you turn with your fingers. It's a little white petcock. You reach it from the bottom, you turn it a couple turns, and the coolant will start coming out of it. So it's all the way down on the passenger side of the vehicle. I'm going to open that loose and drain the coolant out of the car since I got to take the water pump off. There's the tip of that radiator drain. Somebody's got it real tight, so I'm going to get a pair of needle nose pliers or something and get it broke loose. You don't have to turn them all the way out. Just turn them out far enough for the fluid to drain. Next thing I did was unclip that wire harness from the bracket on the motor mount. I pushed the tab toward the motor, lift it off, and then I'm going to go ahead and take these 2 bolts out the motor mount, and then that bolt down there off the motor mount. They look like they might be 14s, and lift that part of the mount out. Then I'm going to get the mount off of the motor and then take the front timing belt covers off, which look like they may be 10 millimeter bolts. Okay, it turned out this top mount up here, it had the two bolts on the front, 1 bolt on the back, and it had another bolt down low in the front and another bolt down low in the back. And as you can see, this mount is totally blown out. Nothing is really holding that thing in place other than the rubber. So let me get that out of there and show you how bad this mount is. Okay, since my upper motor mount was totally blown out, as you can see, the rubber will just come totally out of here. It's not even hardly holding in or connected anymore. So it had a 17 millimeter bolt that went through the bracket and screwed into the other side of the bracket to hold that part of the mount on. We ordered a new aftermarket mount from another source, and that's how it lines up. Actually, it lines up this way. So when you go to take that mount out, if you're going to replace it, it'll probably be easier if you broke that bolt loose with the mount still attached to the other lower bracket portion of it. That way it won't spin too far when you break it loose with that 17mm bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mount ready to go back in. I carefully worked the mount up through this area here, past these air conditioning line, the power steering pump line. Now the mount is sitting here, and as you can see, the rubber on this motor mount is totally torn out. There's nothing stopping it from turning all the way around. You can see the torn rubber in it. So I'm going to try to get one of these mounts to put back in this car before this is all over with. Okay, I got the upper timing belt covers off. They both had 5 bolts in them, or was supposed to. The front one had only 4 bolts in it, and the one on the back here had 3 bolts in it. And it also had this wiring harness that was threaded through the top of it, so you have to kind of unthread that wiring harness to work it off. So now I'm going to go down below and get that serpentine belt off of the crank and the accessories, and I'm going to also time the motor and pull that lower cover off. This serpentine belt tensioner doesn't have much access, so you can hit it from the top or bottom. If you hit it from the top, you're going to have to angle your wrench this way. If you hit it from the bottom, you want to angle your wrench, and you want to twist that counterclockwise till you get the slack off the belt, then pull the belt off. I'm going to hit it from the bottom, and I'm going to show you the cheater that I have on my boxed-in wrench. As you can see, I got a boxed-in wrench on it. I have another box-in wrench on that to cheat it. You kind of hook it in there like that. Then when I pull it down, it'll undo the tension and slack on that belt. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull it off. So let me go ahead and pull that off and get that belt off of the accessories. Okay, I can't get that lower timing belt cover off until I pull this harmonic balancer. So I'm going to go ahead and get the motor in time. As you see, I got my long extension and my breaker bar on it. And when I look up here in the motor, I was told that number 1 on this crank pulley, on this camshaft sprocket, needed to be lined up with this mark on top here. So I'm going to turn the motor clockwise down there until that number 1 mark over there lines straight up. Then I'll check the mark on the back. So let me go ahead and put that in time. Okay, I lined number 1 up with the little hash on it up to that line on the back of the motor right there. When I come over here, I got a little line with an L. It's lined up to the mark on the motor. And if you want to, you could time that with your extension with the bolt on there. You could also use this harmonic balancer holder to time it, because it has the ability to. But then you got to go ahead and pull the bolt out. So I held the harmonic balancer and pulled the bolt out because it had snugged down a little bit. Now I'm going to pull the harmonic balancer off to make sure that the crank down here is timed where it needs to be. Then I'm going to get some white out, and I'm going to mark those areas so that they're nice and clear for future reference and for my reference in case something moves. Now, some people take a few spark plugs out. That makes it easier to turn the motor over by hand. And when you are timing the motor, sometimes the motor compression will make it a little hard to turn over. So I may pull a couple of those spark plugs out when I go to time the motor after I put the belt on. Okay, I just rocked the harmonic balancer back and forth with my hand until it slowly came off. I see there's an arrow on the cover, but I'm going to go ahead and pull all the cover bolts off and pull the cover off. Then I'm going to check the timing on the crank. Okay, now I'm going to take the lower half of the top mount out. You see I got a bolt all the way down there. I have another bolt in here, and I have another bolt in here, and they're all 14 millimeters. So I'm going to pull those bolts and pull that part of the mount bracket off. Okay, now that I got the lower part of the upper mount, engine mount bracket out, I can go ahead and take the rest of the bolts out of that timing belt cover from up here and likely lift that timing belt cover out from the top. Okay, I got the lower timing belt cover off. It did lift up through the top. I couldn't get it down through the bottom. It's supposed to have, looks like 7 bolts in it. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it only had 5. So I might go get a couple of bolts to get all this stuff back in right. So far I'm short 2 there, short 2 on that one, and short 1 on that one. So I'm short 5 timing cover bolts. Okay, I got my crank bolt off, my harmonic balancer off. I'm gonna pull this little washer, and I see this pin thing. Make sure you don't lose that. Is lined up to a little dimple. That little dimple there is lined up to the dash on the block. So that's where your timing mark is for your crank. Losing focus here. I got a little dimple and a mark there. So my next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the 2 bolts, which I've already done, from the hydraulic tensioner. I pull that out, and that leaves a lot of slack in my belt. So now I can just pull my belt off, and then I'm going to take this oil filter housing off. I'm going to take the crank sensor off, and then I'm going to pull the oil pump since I'm dealing with this oil leak. But if you're just doing a timing belt, you can stop here, unbolt your tensioner roller, change your idler roller, and put your belt back on. But we'll pick that back up on the way back in. Okay, those pulley bolts, the idler and the tensioner pulley, were 14 millimeter. And now, since the owner has a water pump, I'm going to go ahead and pull the water pump. Looks like it has some 10 millimeter bolts in it. And the top 2 bolts were held in by the upper engine mount bracket. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that water pump at this time. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is pull the water pump. It looks like it's held in by 8 bolts, 3 of which is that upper motor mount bracket, and then you got 5 other bolts. So I'm going to put a drip pan under here to try to catch the coolant that'll be lost once I pull that water pump out. And of course I drained the radiator earlier to catch most of the coolant. Okay, I did get the water pump out. It had 5 10 millimeter bolts left in it. Didn't have any kind of sealant on it, which is good. Here's the pump here. It was a Honda pump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts on it. And then here's the 3 motor mount bolts. As you can see, it has a weep hole here. It has a little bit of gunk in it. I don't know if that means it was leaking or not, or if it was gunk getting up in there somehow. It likely may have been leaking a little bit. I typically do not change water pumps except for every other change unless they're leaking. But you know, it's a $40 to $80 part, and with all that other stuff out, might as well change it. I did have to pry it loose with a screwdriver. Try not to mess with your timing marks or bend or break anything when you do that. So go ahead and clean up the block a little bit, get ready for the new water pump on, and start reversing your timing belt installation procedure. If you feel that this information was beneficial, please like it and share it with your social media friends. Go ahead and subscribe to my page so you will get notification of future videos that I post. You can feel free to visit my website, robertspinner.com, post questions, and thanks again for watching.